Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Flight Ready podcast. We've had a little bit of a break. Myself and Master Ben, we get pretty busy around a certain time of the year due to real life stuff, and so this took a little bit of a backseat. But we're back. We're back with episode 5. Hopefully we won't leave it so long before episode 6 comes out this time around. So in case you haven't caught them before, I'm LoudGuns, and this is Master Ben.
Hello.
So in this episode, we're asking the question because we have had this bit of a hiatus, and also part of that hiatus, I think it's safe to say, has actually been because we've been playing the game a lot more. And we thought that this was a good time to ask whether, with the recent developments, the stuff that's happened since we've gone into the 4.0 branch, is Star Citizen on its way to becoming an actual MMORPG? So I don't think, Ben, I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think either of us is arguing that Star Citizen is a straight up MMO right now and is ready.
I mean, if we look at the 1.0 roadmap, perhaps we're very close. It's the next one on the line, according to that. But yeah,
Roadmap
I think
Watcher,
it's fair to
Roadmap
say.
Watcher.
Oh yeah, of course. I think I agree. It's definitely not. It's not there, but it's definitely more of a case of how far along have we gone, and actually, are we going the right direction in places?
Yeah, yeah, and I guess it's more, are the foundational blocks getting fleshed out? Because to me, you've got pure foundation stuff. Things like, dare I say, the flight model, which I think is possibly a subject of a whole other podcast. But things like the basic game mechanics, the engine, getting from A to B in a ship, all that sort of stuff. But then you have the content, and I think content is super important for an MMORPG to actually provide you with enough of a lived-in, breathable universe to conduct all of your various other activities in, and a feeling of connectivity and purpose. I kind of feel like these are the things that a game needs to be classed as this massively multiplayer online. So but is there anything else you'd add to that list, Ben?
Well, no, I think these are the key areas. For me, and I want to be clear, I'm not coming from an MMO background. This is something. One of the reasons I joined Star System was to find that sort of experience and sort of understanding what it should really be looking like compared to other games I've looked at. And to me, the big thing is turning your account from I'm just going on my solo trip together. I'm grinding my solo ref, my solo experiences to actually I'm working part of a much bigger team in a much bigger server to achieve a goal which you couldn't do by yourself. So exactly as you said, a lot of it will come down to the gameplay and ensuring the infrastructure is there to allow you to have those experiences.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things to say as well is exactly why it's not an MMO now, why it's not there. And one of the key things you need for an MMORPG is long-term persistence. You need to be beyond the world of resets, and you need to be beyond wipes. So it needs to be, I am going to log into this universe and I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to have some purpose to it. And then if I decide to stop playing for 3 months, I'm going to come back to it and the world's going to continue to turn.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to catch up, but I can drop back into it, drop in and out of it at various points, which we obviously don't have because we don't know when the next wipe is coming, but we know there is one, right? Like,
Yeah.
some
Just you
people I
right.
see in global chat are saying things like "no more wipes until 1.0," and I'm just like, where are you getting your information?
Buddy. Yeah, you are sorely mistaken. And there's always a level of anxiety around when you unlock something quite cool, and you always have that question of how long do I have this for? And I think especially as well with done a lot of contested zones, which is a great example. I'm sure we'll come on to about actually when you get big groups together doing the same goal. So you unlock your key cards and you go, do I use it this patch? Because if there's an update in a week, sometimes they disappear, and maybe I'll just hold on to that and hope for a little bit. So we just
Yeah.
things like that need to go. But then on the flip side, we're still in a time where the Idrises have come out. See, this actually was filmed recently. This wasn't filmed
Mm-hmm.
a while ago. Spoilers. Um, the Idris comes out. Suddenly, it turns out you can dupe railguns really easily. I feel like CIG may want to have a look at that and start doing a few little, selective wipes from accounts and changes. So we're just not there yet, are we? We're just not there in the proper persistence.
Yeah, I do think interestingly there is some form of duping check which happens. So between patches now, you get a duping check, and I don't know where I stand on exploits. I'll be honest. It's a big grey area in between the definitely cheating and definitely negative for other players' play experience and the completely, technically backspacing to fast travel back to your home location. That is an exploit, but I don't care if you want to do that, honestly. There is a huge grey area in between. It largely comes down to, things like I can get why people dupe their components when the components that they earned fair and square get randomly taken away by database issues. Like I'm not gonna frown on people for doing that, but at the same time, there does appear to at least be some sort of duping check that goes on, and parts get removed if they have been duped. So they are building some stuff in, but like you say, it's that there's a long way to go in terms of game systems, which would, if you want to get to a world without wipes, you need integrity, right? You need integrity in the game. You can't have duped stuff floating around.
And a marketing team, some may say. So I thought I'd just drop that in. There you go. But it's exactly that. You need to ensure that the work I do today is going to be here tomorrow, and the start of the current patch, when everyone in every chat's going, "Oh, I've just lost all my ships that I didn't purchase. I've just lost all my guns and all my components." You think, yeah, if someone came to me and said, "How do you feel about these dupers right now?" It's like, I can take a bit of pity if they're just getting what they earned back, right? And I think that's also why, CIG has started to crack down, as you said. Duping checks definitely, I think definitely have come across those. But yeah, it's good they're not stopping everything until they're actually in a place where you're not being screwed by a database instead of working twice for one thing.
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned about that Wicklow Polaris that we got recently. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I'm a bit worried that Sniping Cat's gonna wake up in 4.2 and find that that's not in the hangar.
yeah.
Because that was a bit of a grind, but
Hell of a cool grind though.
And that's the thing. So having addressed, I think it's worth addressing really upfront with the title of this video, that the terms is it becoming an MMO, not Star Citizen is an MMORPG now, today. Like we're fully aware of all the reasons it's not. But I think there are some really good signs that it's on the right track, with regard to delivering this big universe to play in. And I think actually meaningful, enjoyable grinds are an element. Like, the Polaris grind is genuinely really fun. Except for that bit where you go around checking all the boxes for the Tavaran War Medal in pristine condition. That's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
But
RNG is just never that enjoyable. Yeah.
But it does. I mean, I do think there's an element of I would prefer things like that to be skill based. That's the thing, and you can argue there's a certain amount of skill that goes into getting your box checking rep up. So how many boxes can you open in an average 15-minute span?
TSA simulator.
But I think from my perspective, I'd prefer it was a mixture of, I love the Quantanium bit, because it's like, right, well, what's the hardest thing to mine in the game? Okay, let's say they need a lot of that. Because then it was like really purposeful. Like some of the guys who were doing the mining, they were saying, I've never turned down so many gold rocks. like rocks that
one
they
thing, buddy.
100% would have mined on any other day, but it was the same arguably when we had Supply or Die, and that was a great irony to all of us who like mining, that we were just like, Vexolite, Taranite, where's the tin? give me the tin, give me the corundum. So yeah, sort of send those missions, like sending people out after specific things. But then particularly if it's combined with like a bit more of a challenging thing, like I think Hathor is probably one of the best events, like the best things that they've put in the game.
Yeah.
And I love that when it works. Admittedly, that's a bit of a caveat there, but
Yeah.
that it's just always on. And I know that some people have got their noses out of joint a little bit over the use of the term sandbox. I do think CIG maybe need a bit of a dictionary, as they say sandbox, and I don't think they mean what a lot of people mean when they use that term. But I think what they're trying to say is, you know, their move over to always on events.
Yeah.
Like rather than your Xeno threats or your Siege of Orisons, which were really good fun. But the idea that it would be triggered just by people going to do it, as opposed to triggered on a, you know, this will start from 1700 UTC on a 3-hour rotation, that sort of thing, or when a CIG dev flicks a switch in the studio. But so yeah, I'm really enjoying that sort of stuff. Really looking for. I've not been playing too much 4.2 because I don't want to ruin.
Yeah, exactly.
Massive worm fights for myself. Like
the stuff that appears to be coming. Like I've been reading the patch notes. Haven't watched any videos on 4.2 yet. Haven't been sort of seeing any screenshots of it. But from the patch notes alone, it sounds like it's going to be a hell of a good time of what's coming up. But you're dead right. Unlike in previous patches where you're sort of thinking, "Oh God, come on, we need the next one to come out, so we get this building block of something new we can do, and actual new content to replace the not mundane, but sort of empty void that there was." We're now in a position where Mine the Line works really well. Ghost Hollow technically still exists, although I think no one's touched that place in quite a while because it's pretty dull. You know, it's just a perfect example that people are gravitating more towards the opportunity to have ground fights, air fights. You know, mining involves as well. I love all the actual combat. I mean, I think right, mining. I can leave now and give this to someone else. And yeah, it's just that idea of actually you can now work as a proper team. You could do it by yourself theoretically, assuming you don't get attacked too heavily, or you're just a god gamer when it comes to air combat. But yeah, it's just a way to go. It's absolutely the way to go. And I do think things like Jumptown could come back in some fashion because what, as exactly you said, they're if you remove the switch flicking, they are just live events that can run all the time and actually just provide something else to do in the game. But at the same time, it's quite nice to have only a select few constantly available events to actually force people to get together. So I
yeah,
think one of the big things to me when I look at Star Citizen and when I look at towards sort of becoming more of a live MMO environment is seeing more people in the same place trying to either compete or work for the same goal together. Now, before we had Jumptown could be held by one org, one group. You could attack it, sure, but if you weren't skilled enough, you didn't have the numbers, that was sort of it. This whole game element was now removed from the equation. Well, in Mine the Line, we have multiple different. I want to appreciate, by the way, I've called it the wrong name every single time. A line of mine, right?
a line of
I
mine.
always get it wrong. There you go. I always get it wrong.
I
But
also never know whether to call that a line of mine or Hathor. I've switched over to calling it Hathor
yeah,
now,
yeah.
but yo,
I've just never called it that. So I'm just like, yeah. I mean,
we,
I
we've
think
we've got 3 names for it, but everybody knows what I mean, right? Laser
everyone knows
laser
what's
go
going
boom.
on. Yeah, that's literally it. And sometimes the laser's off, and yet you still go boom when you go near it. Now that's always entertaining. Yeah,
Yeah.
but this is the answer: create multiple copies of the same type of content in the game, so that actually you go, oh, you know, Zone A is too hot for us. Let's try Zone B. So actually, smaller orgs can have the opportunity to go and still do the game, and so
Yeah.
therefore you're not just making a pure PvP game. The idea originally was it's meant to be like slightly PvE. I heard for Half-Orc. I never understood that. I
I,
never got that, but
I think some people at CIG are just clearly really nice.
yeah,
Like really nice people.
AT safe. Yeah,
And yeah. I mean we're both British, so we can make fun of the British stereotypes.
Yeah.
But like, maybe they were the folks who would have queued at JT and
Yeah,
formed a
yeah.
nice orderly line and taken one box at a time. I think the principle, and maybe the principle applies in the game that they're intending to build with the systems that they haven't got in yet. And if by committing crime in Stanton in a secure system, you're just pretty much guaranteed to be apprehended by security forces,
Yeah, yeah.
and everybody would in Stanton would be avoiding getting a crime stat, then you might get logically into more of a situation where you turn up and it's not just if they ain't us, then they're dead.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, but the tricky thing is that they've created this system with, Hathor to me is a PvP event, because if you sink the resource into holding down the site, and actually, quite often the skill into completing it, right? Like the coordination into doing it quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
Then why, when somebody else comes along, are you gonna be like, sure, mate, hop on into the pit and take all the Karenite you can carry? Because there's a finite amount of that resource. Same as there's a finite amount of boxes at Jumptown. And, if you've put the effort into doing it, then why do you want to share? You're already sharing because you haven't done it on your own. Like, you haven't got to that point on your own. So you're already sharing the loot amongst your group. You don't. There's no incentive for you to go. You get some of that too, random person who has just turned up and maybe shot a worm or two. Like, it's
What a
and
helpful person.
yeah, I did have some good experiences at Hathor when I have gone with a smaller group, and the flashing of lights to say I'm friendly, and then you actually end up doing it with somebody else. But that's a bit different. That's like, none of us individually had the ability to do this thing on our own. We've all just organically come together and done it. Now we are sharing. Until one guy gets an FS9 and hoses everybody at the very end and steals all the Karenite, Which
He
is
was a
always the
traitor
risk.
all along.
A traitor in our midst. But it would be interesting, and I think that's something that CIG maybe need to work on, building into future events and things like this, like content like this, is incentives for people to work together, get rid of maybe that finite loot. Like, because the Hunt the Polaris mission was actually a pretty good example. Now, admittedly, sometimes at the end, those did just descend into brawls.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think with the whole like hostility markers thing, that does get really confusing. If I'm zipping around in my F7A and I happen to get a couple of shots across the back of your Idris, which flew across my line of fire,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden I'm red, and because of the nameplate stuff having been taken away, I am now just indistinguishable from all the other red chevrons. And so, unsurprisingly, I get splattered. But the overall idea with Hunt the Polaris is actually encouraging you to work together. We all get 30 scrip. We all get an inconsequential payout for the mission. So none of us care about the money. We're all here for the scrip and the explosions. Me getting my 30 scrip doesn't mean that you lose anything. So therefore, like, we're incentivized to let everybody get involved and kill that Polaris as quickly as possible, so that we can go and kill the next one. So maybe they do need to think about building more content in with that sort of reward distribution. My reward doesn't detract your reward. That sort of thing. Does mean that big orgs can cheese it.
I think
He
this is like
says having cheesed it pretty hard.
yeah. It's like just the age-old problem, isn't it? Of like, how does CIG build scale into the game? And I suppose that is a fundamental point on the roadmap to being a proper MMO, of actually having this sort of content for everyone. But also, there's always this question of people being locked out of certain areas because they're not part of groups. Now, is that something that would play into an MMO? Is that something that should happen? I mean, I think in a way it should be happening. One person shouldn't be able to do it all by themselves. There should be a motivation to join a group. But I believe you have a better background in this sort of area, so it'd be interesting to know.
Well, I think you got to look after your solo players, like because solo players, like not everybody. Like some people are going to be joining because their friends have got them into the game and said, "Hey, come check this out. This is fun. Come play with me." So some people enter on day one as a group player, as a multiplayer player. But a lot of people don't. Like probably more people don't. They enter a game as a solo player. They do the solo thing for a while. Like we see it in our Discord. Like lots of people join and the message that they type in introduce yourself is I have played Star Citizen solo for since 2022, 21, 16, 2012.
Yeah.
And I thought actually like now I'm looking at the stuff and I want to join a group.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will join solo. If they enjoy the game, they'll stick around for it. Then they'll find multiplayer stuff. So I do think there should be pathways to achieving a lot solo. Like I've got a slight problem with the distribution of like the Hathor gems. Just I mean it's under development, right? So it's like right now it's not perfect. Sherlock, well done. But I think there should be like a way to get small amounts of those gems. Like I should be able to like go down into pretty much any cave and just have a chance to find sort of one Karanite node or Jacklium node amongst Dolvine and Hadnite and whatever. And sure, I'm going to be getting like, wait, I got 3 Karanite, like I'm walking away with. And now I've got to fly to another cave if I want a chance at like 3 Jacklium. So it's going to be a much, much slower way to acquire those gems. But then it's not locking me out of the content completely. And it's also like an incentive because I'm like, right, I've moved up the tech tiers. I've built the stuff where I required like 5 gems. Now I want to build the stuff where I need 30.
Yeah.
I don't want to grind for those by getting them 2 at a time every 4 caves I visit. But if I get with an org, then like, we can go and control like the site where we can potentially get hundreds of these things in one go. So I think multiplayer play should be more rewarding. Should have these like higher level missions and stuff to do more efficiently, to get bigger rewards. But I don't think that there should be a case of like this reward is only possible to get if you play in a big group. Because otherwise it will lead to big groups just price gouging everyone else. Just check UEX for the price of Karanite right now. Like, anyway.
Place to be. It's just a market to be in.
I mean, we're doing it as well.
Yeah.
It's but why wouldn't we? Like, it's so.
Yeah, if you can hold it, you might as well. So I think one of the other key areas as well, when we look at the last 6 months of Star Citizen, probably more 9 months actually for this sort of area, one of the huge changes is in server size as well. Not just in physical space you can go, and the addition of Pyro has been fairly huge. What has been huge, I would say actually it's second to the actual just quantity of players on the server.
Yeah.
We're now seeing 600-700 people, I want to say. Is it 700 now in some place?
Yeah, 7.
Which is
it's
just wild, like utterly wild. It used to be back in the day. 'Cause we've been doing this for a while now on the old large event size, getting people together. You'd get a party of 50, and it was like, it's unlikely we'll get a server, and if we do, it will be a brand new server being spooled up. These days, party of 50, party of 100. I think I saw a party of 100 recently in the org, and that was, everyone easily gets on one server. But more importantly, there's now so many more times where you actually interact with other players. Now, not all of them are nice, that's life, but I think it's, to me, one of the most important parts is actually just seeing other people in the same universe together. You fly into especially like Orison, Area 18, Lorville, Architect, and you just see ships everywhere. And it's like, okay, so we're playing a game. It's not just a solo game where I happen to see other people. It's like this is actually,
Yeah.
a live environment. Yeah.
Like
So
spaceports. Spaceports are a huge one. And like
yeah,
the LEO stations. When you arrive at them, you see activity around them. There's always, if you fly into Tisa Spaceport on Lorville, there's just always ships taking off and landing.
yeah.
And the burrito bar at Everest Harbour, it's got a queue most days. Well, most of the days when some dickhead hasn't gone and stuck the active NPC into Everest Harbour's lobby. That is driving me nuts at the moment.
There's some dev out there who's just like he's near to retirement. It's like this will be a bit of a laugh. This will really get people going on a Monday morning.
I'm pretty sure it's one person as well. This is the thing. It's one person, and they do it on like Eva Carty servers, like for the PTUs. It's like must be able
What is
to.
going on?
Maybe it's a CIG dev. Maybe that's why they've done it for this long without getting caught.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It could be the intern program. Just be a barista, somewhere in Orison, or be
maybe,
a bartender.
maybe it's Chris. Yeah.
We found it out.
But I do think there's that feeling. And I remember playing. I try to think what was the first MMO I played. I think it might have been Warhammer Online. Was the first
Okay, yeah,
proper MMO that I got into, and it was that first moment of like, because what most MMOs tend to do is they don't tend to actually start you like Star Citizen does in the main city.
Mm.
A lot of them will give you. But I suppose it's like playing the tutorial, right? They'll give you the starting zone, and then which will be a little village or something. Then you work your way through the initial area until you come to the main city. But then that first main city is always a bit of a wow moment.
yeah.
Like where you go into, one, it's architecturally much bigger and grander, and two, all of a sudden you're seeing loads of players with the old nameplates over the head. Was from the old school MMORPG days, and all of a sudden that sort of, for me, I mean, probably showing my age, but that was the first like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like
Yeah.
these are all people, like in a video game. So, and I think that is what sets MMOs apart from other games. Sort of that feeling like you're part of a big collective of players, and it's starting to feel that way around those like high population areas, which is really really positive change.
Yeah. So one of the areas I want to look at as well is something we saw at CitizenCon. There was an idea of it coming this year, not entirely convinced anymore, truth be told, was around base building and how that will impact the feeding of the game being an MMO. Do we actually think that's going to have a fundamental change on how things work together? Now, I think there's obviously the question of the scale. Obviously, we saw this idea of having huge, big sprawling areas. Once again, that's just teamwork. Again, that's getting more people together. Or actually, now that we've seen big events coming into the game, could that be a much more efficient way of actually building that proper combined goal together?
Personally, I think, and I sort of hope, that base building is one of the last things to go in before 1.0.
Mm.
Like and I do think it's a core thing they need for then, because one of the things you do need in an MMO is you need purpose, because it's always on. Right now, like, what's your purpose for playing? Like, I mean, at the basest level, it's to get a new ship. You're starting out as certainly, I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in this. I started out with a small ship, and my main goal for like the first 3 to 6 months that I played probably was just like working out better ways to make money, so that I could try the ships which I couldn't afford in real life. Like, I wanted to buy a hammerhead, to see what that was like, and then I bought it, and then I instantly regretted it because then I realized I had to go and find more friends. Like, but that only lasts so long. So then, like right now, I would say my main purpose for playing is just building up my skill at the game. Like I want to improve as a pilot, as a miner, as whatever. I enjoy the gameplay, so it's just I'm just playing for gameplay. But it's easy to get distracted by other games if other games turn up and offer you different gameplay that you would try. And social, hanging out with people, playing with friends, doing that sort of thing. But we don't have this like. We've got like short-term goals, like working to build the Polaris was a really good example. But like then we do it, then what? We just move on to building the next person a Polaris and the next person a Polaris. We're gonna hit a point where we're like, we got enough Polarises. Whereas I think the idea of like bases, territorial control, that sort of thing, like star bases eventually, that provides something to keep coming back for. We've got to build a new, like, what's our goal over the next couple of months? All right, we gotta build a new wing because we've got to build up our resource gathering in this resource, because then that feeds into building ships and becomes quite circular, and creates a bit of a sink, like a time sink and a cash sink for you, which currently I just think we're lacking. And if you're looking for like what ticks it over to being an MMO, that can't be lacking. Like,
so what we're missing is a time sink. Okay, we've got small time sinks in trying to do logistics in the game. So we go.
load your
I've got
ship.
to me. Yeah, literally, this is like a huge one for me. It's just I want to be able to log on and do what I need to do. And it doesn't need to be quick, but it just needs to be efficient. It needs to just work, right? And that, I guess, it's more. That's not an MMO. That's just a functional game. We are getting there, but we're certainly not the all the way. I think this year, especially, has actually shown that you can get on and play the game quicker. We're definitely not there yet, but yeah, the strategy change, at least, also, what they've claimed to be doing of focusing on bug fixing, actually getting things sorted, I think has definitely helped that approach. Obviously, as we said at the beginning, not there yet, but yeah, definitely in the right direction.
Yeah, I think one of the core things that's missing is the economy side
Yeah.
of things, and that ties into your base building. We're seeing little bits of like players filling in the gaps. There is player trading. I do find it really funny that there's the tier 0 item recovery. People are saying this is gonna kill the player economy. It's I think it's jump started the player economy.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you see people are willing to pay decent money for armor and for guns, but they want the shiny guns. They don't want like AP4 AR. They want, the nice stuff. They want the stuff from the contested zones. They want the cool looking armor. I do think that also helps on the visual aspect of it. When you see those people running around the space stations and stuff, they're not in white noob suits and medical gowns. They're actually like.
I haven't seen a noob suit in months.
I thought about like ironically wearing one the other day.
Just remind everyone what they look like.
I might just make this my go-to look. Like it would stand out like a sore thumb. But yeah, it's sort of like that all helps. But I think because they showed some really cool stuff, and I suppose that's where it ties to base building. They showed some really cool stuff with regard to how they envisage player bases feeding into player run shops and the systems where you can maglock something down, because I do wonder, there was maybe a rumor that I heard out of a bar citizen at the weekend, which was that somebody was maybe working on something placeholdery with regard to player economy, like P2P trading stuff.
Right, okay.
And I think that would be huge, because currently you have a system. I paid somebody 5 million credits for some stuff the other day, and it basically did just come down to, right, who hands over their stuff first?
Yeah.
You know, I think we arrived at a conclusion of, he handed over the stuff first. I think because he thought, well, the YouTube guy probably has more to lose if he
Gonna be a hell of a
screws me
good
out of
video.
this. But I basically I paid him for 2 million of it at a time. So if I just run off with all the stuff, then he wouldn't have been short so much. What we need is some sort of escrow system, like some sort of zero trust trading, where I can list an item, you can come along and buy it. When you buy it, it gets delivered to your freight elevator, so that we can actually trade these items. That would breathe a huge amount of life into the game, I think, because it takes it away from the problem with player P2P trading at the moment is trying to organize a time and a place to meet a random person. You're just like text messaging, like,
please don't scam me. I promise, I'll be good.
please don't scam
that'd be
me.
incredible.
Please turn up while it's still my lunchtime.
Yeah.
Please don't struggle to log into the game.
The really simple stuff, the really simple stuff. And actually, it's funny, even on that regard, so the name tags came out with Idris. What I didn't realize is when you do a name tag, it resets your ship. So all the components on the ship disappear, so you don't get them back anymore. That was fun.
Yeah,
I liked that. Thought I'd somehow get that in there. That what wasn't best piece about that
that was
one
your
at all.
gripe. Thankfully, somebody in the Discord warned me about that. So, because apparently there's actually been cases of sort of if you'd bought a paint and stuff, it just disappears.
Oh yeah, no, it's gone. It's gone.
Gone.
Yeah, I've lost it. Yeah, it's all gone. Yeah.
I don't
beam
know.
Laser PDCs and
I don't know that I could enjoy the Idris without the Sharky paint.
I don't like that paint. I'm sorry, man. I don't like the paint.
There will be no episode 6. There will be no Flight Ready episode 6.
Yeah. Each to their own. Each to their own, right?
Yeah. Different smokes, different folks.
Exactly. The worst bit is my wall paint.
Comment down below though if Sharky paint is number 1.
It's not.
What paint are you using if you're not using Sharky paint?
I used a beige, right? I used a beige paint. I like beige paint, man. It's really nice.
The shark paint sucks. Yeah. I love beige.
I love beige. It's great. It's great. It's just it looks really good in light because you can see all the angles of the Idris. It accentuates the Idris, right?
I think we know what I'm clipping for the short for this episode.
I just would never win the argument either way because my paints are. Well, it's gone either way, so I don't need to worry.
It's gone. It's gone. You're stuck.
Yeah. So,
right.
Is Starsman becoming an MMORPG? No, because I lost my beige paint and beam laser. So
because the long-term persistence is just database issues. No way.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Thanks for watching. Yeah, but now on the point I was going to raise about the Idris, and I think more new ships in general. Do we need more ships, right? And that isn't a weighted question as to do we need a pioneer or do we need the Orion, where it's actually a fundamental change in how the game functions. Are small fighters, as an example, or small cargo ships adding to the value of this game as an MMORPG by bringing in diversity into what we see in the game, what we see people fighting, potentially different metas, but I think what we've seen so far is I appreciate they're trying not to have a meta. There's definitely a meta, and it just so happens to be all the ships, mostly right now, that can't be bought in game. So there's sort of two folds of questions here, isn't there? First of all,
yeah. Whoever the CIG dev was who stated we don't want there to be a meta, I just really hope one of their colleagues turned around and said, "Oh, my sweet summer child."
Yeah.
the concept that you would not have a meta in a video game, particularly not in a massively multiplayer online one. It's like metas emerge because we basically crowdsource good ideas.
Yeah.
That there's enough people to test things to pretty quickly get to a this is the best. Like, and that's all the meta is. Like, it's just the best
much.
way to do a thing. There's, there's mining meta, there's combat meta, and these things are always going to exist perpetually through Star Citizen's entire life. Now, I do think one issue with having so many ships, outside of Star Citizen, I play a lot of League of Legends. It's my most played other game. And over the years that I've played that game, new and more champions get released. Like, so they add and they add and they add to this champion pool. And the reason that it can maintain sort of competitive, they've had to actually change the way they do competitive play. So they gradually increase the number of bans that each team would get, because that's the only way, right? There will always, any patch, be X number of champions who are overpowered. And so they started with 3 bans, that had to be increased to 5 bans, because they increased the number of champions.
How many champions are there? Sorry,
Like
let's say 6.
120 or something.
Okay, right. Okay.
So, which is not that far off how many ships Star Citizen has.
Yeah.
And
every server could ban 5 ships.
Yeah, and then now what they do in competitive league is when they play a series of games, so like a best of 5, they've introduced a thing called Fearless Draft. So if you play a champion in one game, you can't play it again for the rest of the series.
Oh, cool.
And so that's their way of kind of dealing with, because the pro play games were getting boring. Because it was just like every single game, if you're on red side, you ban this and you pick this. And every game was just like the 2 mid players flipping. But they were playing the same champion. But it's like they just switch each game depending on which side they were. And everybody knew that was what they were going to get. And it's just like, yeah, this is boring. Let's shake it up. Let's create a way where we force more diversity into the game. I do think that like Star Citizen has the same sort of problem, but without any way outside of things like Arena Commander, where Arena Commander competitive tournaments could be moderated like that. You could basically just say like, I'm holding a tournament, but no F7As, or you're all flying Auroras, or that sort of thing. But like, you can't do that in an MMO. And at that point, is there a sort of element that more ships equals harder to balance, which then will probably get in the way of them avoiding metas emerging. I think what people need to understand when they look at buying a ship, though, is that metas will change. And if you're buying a ship because it's really overpowered right now, probably don't. Because if it's really overpowered right now, it's almost guaranteed to get nerfed. Like, it's one of those things. It's going to be constantly evolving. In terms of whether it's delaying the game because of the time to develop these ships, I mean, I don't really buy that myself. Just because the guys who are making the content and the guys who are developing the mechanics and the engine and other stuff that is required for this to be classified as 1.0, they are not the people. John Crew isn't. If you stop John Crew building ships, he doesn't go and work on server meshing or mission design or whatever. It's so because they're just separate people doing separate jobs. So, and if that's how the money keeps rolling in to keep the lights on, then fair enough.
Fair enough. Let's get we've got Prowler Utility, Prowler Dropship, Prowler Mining. Can we get Prowler Mining in here?
I did see potentially reason for the Prowler.
Okay.
The Prowler Utility.
Is it Dropship? The Argos.
Dropship for Icties.
Yeah. Now it
yeah.
looks so cool.
Now it's got a purpose, and now I'm fully on board
Yeah.
with it.
So it can carry, is 2 on each side, 3 on each side? Because they count as 3 SU cargo boxes, don't they,
Yes,
effectively?
yeah. So I think it's 3. I could be wrong,
Okay.
but 3 each side. Even if it's 2 each side, it's still hot
That's
dropping
so
4
cool.
of them in,
Yeah.
and it looks amazing when it does it. So,
Yeah. It's
but
I've never liked
I
the
don't think it should have
Prowler.
been called Prowler Utility. I think it should have been called Prowler Cargo ICD Delivery System.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Utility was yeah, could have cooked for a few more days in your marketing team, I suspect, on that one. But,
That said, it did immediately have me thinking, oh, I'm gonna completely blank on the name of the incredibly popular television show. I'm stringing it out though, and I've got to the fact that it's Firefly. So there was an episode where they rob a train,
Okay.
and they do it by like flying over the top of it. I was wondering if you give me some form of train-based heist mission, then maybe, and it's specifically I need to bring out 2 16 SCU boxes of something really valuable.
Yeah.
Then I will acknowledge that the Prowler utility has utility.
It's perfect. That is,
But
yeah.
so yeah, if anybody from the mission design team has made it 45 minutes into our episode,
Mm.
train heist.
Yeah. More beige paint
More
and a train heist.
beige paint for my Prowler utility
I'll buy it.
to do my train heist. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be, and the train can have a shark mouth on it. So I'm literally stealing from the shark.
Excellent.
That'd be great.
Excellent. I'm on board too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
Right.
I think maybe, unless have any other important things to raise, maybe we should throw it open to the comments. And basically, it would be really interesting to hear everybody's opinions on, do you think Star Citizen's on the right track for an MMO, or do you think it's going wildly off course, as could very well be the case?
Yeah.
And what features do you think you would need to see to really think it's crossed that threshold? And we're always we read all of the comments on these videos. And of course, do hop into. We'll include the link to the Frontier Community Discord down in the video description as well. So hop on in there. Myself and Ben are in there all the time. So it's always really interesting to have sort of follow up discussions after these episodes and hear other people's points of view. But where else on the interwebs can everybody find you, Ben?
Oh God, the plugs! Great, here we go. So I'm on Twitch sometimes. So that's twitch.tv/MasterBen10, and I'm on YouTube. I think I'm called MasterBen10 there as well, or maybe MasterBen.
We'll make sure
They're
we
above.
add the things above and below to.
So
yeah. But they've definitely taken a look
I've
at
heard
those.
you do YouTube at some time.
So
YouTube.
yeah, I am 99.99% on YouTube. My Twitch link exists. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna stop saying I'm gonna start doing streaming again soon, because I have said that for 5 out of 5 episodes and not got round to it, even with a huge hiatus. So
There has been time.
There has been time to do it. I have not done it. I would blame that it is hard to fit in amongst the pitter patter of tiny French bulldog feet, but I'm pretty sure everybody would just really enjoy Krug being on a stream, so I can't really blame him, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping he would be the stream, not gonna lie. I thought you just like lower the camera to the floor.
That's probably it. I mean, I think if maybe I can argue that it's a case of I haven't got my setup right, because I haven't managed to get the Krug cam at the ready.
Yeah.
When I get the Krug cam sorted, then streaming will resume.
Resume. So it did start at some point, to confirm.
It existed before. It did exist before.
Okay.
But
okay.
I was not consistent. So
nice.
Right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. But thank you very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to this channel already, then please do, and please check out Ben and my content elsewhere on the interwebs. But for now, we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, see you guys later. See you later.